The Daily Nation. I see inset is also an image of the headline story over the reported impropriety in the management of donor funds. KEMSA caught up in new 4 billion shilling scandal in that Sunday evening interview at State House, Nairobi with various media houses, including NTV's Lofty Matambo. The president said he would be taking action. This appears to be the action he promised. Let's take a look at the very top of the page here. And more pain for hustlers as kerosene diesel prices jump. Poor households will feel the pinch of higher kerosene prices following the removal of subsidy on the product, raising the cost by 9.4%. In the latest review of petroleum prices for May 15th to June 14th, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority has raised the price of kerosene by 15.19 a litre to 161.13 in Nairobi. The subsidy on diesel and kerosene has been removed, EPRA stated in a press statement on Sunday. So costly, up by 15 shillings, the amount by which the cost of a litre of kerosene has increased in Nairobi. Diesel prices rose by 6 shillings. Top of the class, University of Nairobi makes list of the world's 2,000 leading universities. The University of Nairobi is the only Kenyan university listed among the world's top 2,000 universities in the latest rankings released yesterday by the Center for World University Rankings. On the equivalent of the ticker on the Daily Nation, I see they've highlighted Thuge nominated as next CBK governor, and for smart business, how witchcraft ritual on worker backfired on giant transport firm. Transporter to pay 450,000 to ex-employee. It's subjected to a demeaning ritual following theft of a computer gadget. Sounds like an interesting read. So they tell us to look further inside, to flip through the paper and find that report. Okay, let's take a look at the Business Daily before I invite my panelists to weigh in on the cost of petroleum products. A gentleman muddied by dam scandal set for CBK, and that is the Business Daily. Here we go. The gentleman in question is Kamau Thuge. Picture of him there if you're not familiar. And this report by Dominic Omondi tells us that Thuge was Treasury PS when Kenya took first $2 billion US Euro bond expected to address dollar shortage woes. How pump prices will look like after Ruto's 16% VAT. This I'm very interested in. Let me zoom in a little closer so that we can see those numbers better. There we go. Zoom in even further. Okay, I think that's the maximum. A landed cost, super, diesel, kerosene, distribution and storage, margins, taxes and levies, plus the VAT. It means super petrol will be retailing at 196 shillings per litre, diesel 181, kerosene 173. Current pricing has been used for computations, and the source is EPRA. If the proposal goes through, petrol will be shillings shy of the 200 per litre mark. And this report compiled by John Mutua, pump prices, he tells us, will nearly breach the 200 shilling per litre mark if Parliament approves a proposal by President William Ruto's administration to double value-added tax on fuel in a plan that could make Kenya have the highest prices in the region. An analysis, they tell us, by Business Daily shows that a litre of super will rise by 13 shillings and 51 cents to 196 shillings and 21 cents. Okay, so let's take a look at the ticker now. And I see here what reopening of Kenya-Somalia border means for the economy. Court stops Kiari from doubling excise stamp taxes. The court has handed manufacturers temporary relief after blocking the Kenya Revenue Authority from doubling excise stamp taxes on beer, bottled water and cosmetics. And M-Copper secures record 35 billion shillings for expansion. Solar and asset financing firm M-Copper has secured 35 billion shillings financing and new debt and equity from Standard Bank and Japanese-based trading house Sumitomo Corporation, among others, for expansion in sub-Saharan Africa. Let's take a look at Taifa Leo front page. And this is what they have in store. Zoom in a bit further. No, that's good. Serikali yazidi kufinya raia. An image there of border operators. What appears to be Mtumba behind them. Let me see where this is. Kongowea. This is Kongowea in the county of Mombasa. I also see maziwa ya Kenyatta kutoingia nchini. Bidhaa hiyo kutoka Uganda ya kosa kibali kuuzwa Kenya. And Pastor Ezekiel kuzidi kusota. Mahakama kuu yakataa kutoa agizo kufungua akaunti zake zenye mamilioni. Okay, so that is the Taifa Leo on the cost of living. Let's take a look now at the Standard. And this is what they have for us today. On tax, they tell us Ruto is between a rock and a hard place. An image of the president during that interview at State House, Nairobi. President was hard-pressed to explain the new levies he wants to introduce when the cost of living is at an all-time high, with experts wondering about the economic rationale of the proposed taxation measures. I delved deep into this subject with my panelists, economists, yesterday. You can find the full show on NTV Kenya's YouTube channel. Here is what the Standard highlights as contentious is the 35% new income tax rate on Kenyans earning 500,000 shillings per month, up from 30%. 16% proposed VAT on fuel that will push the prices of petrol up by up to 15 shillings, and 3% is the amount to be deducted from salaries to go towards the housing fund. I also see on the front page they've highlighted the changes at KEMSA. Health PS, KEMSA bosses fired over 4 billion shilling nets scandal. And they have an image of the former now public health PS, Josephine Mburu, KEMSA chairperson Daniel Rono, and KEMSA CEO Terry Ramadhani. Hustlers to feel heat of sharp fuel price increase. And I see on page 10, they tell us judges don't force learners to pray when in school. At the very top of the page here, villages Mackenzie was chased from before Shakahola. Banks to auction properties as defaults hit 39 billion shilling. That is truly troubling. Let's take a look now at the Star. And front page of the Star. Ruto fires PS KEMSA board over tender. The man in question is all smiles here, holding a football. President William Ruto, after unveiling the East African Community Pamoja bid for the Africa Cup of Nations 2027 at State House, Nairobi. A day after he swore to clean KEMSA after alleged scandal, the president did take that action. The persons in question are here, Josephine Mburu, KEMSA chairman Irungu Nyakera, and KEMSA CEO Terry Ramadhani, now suspended and replaced. Okay, so that is the front page of the Star, but interesting story here. Fertilizer subsidy in limbo over 14.7 billion shillings deficit. The ambitious fertilizer subsidy program is in limbo as the ministry decries a 14.7 billion budget deficit. Crop Development PS Kelo Harsama yesterday told MPs the project will be dealt a huge blow given Treasury's allocation for the next financial year. He said the budgetary requirement for its rollout was 19.2 billion shillings. So let me just reintroduce you to my panelists and get their thoughts on the top stories, in particular, more particularly, the rise in the cost of fuel and further projected rise once the 16% VAT comes into effect should the Finance Bill 2023 go through, as well as I'm curious whether they are eager willing to contribute to the 3% of the housing levy to the housing fund. With me in studio this morning, we have Celestine Njagi, advocate of the High Court of Kenya, certified mediator. We have Sylvia Mulama, who is a women and youth advocate, and joining us virtually, we have Acheng Osogo, governance and political analyst. Vivian, I saved you for last because I want you to kick us off. Vivian Tag, governance and political analyst. Vivian, your thoughts on the rise in the cost of fuel and the further projected rise? Business Daily, if you take a look at your Business Daily, they tell us it'll fall just short once the 16% VAT comes into force, assuming the finance bill is passed as it is now. It'll go up to just shy of 200. They are the figures, just shy of 200 shillings. Per litre. It's crazy, Olive. I mean, I know it's our responsibility. Every Kenyan has a responsibility to pay tax. But I think the issue that most Kenyans have is, are we getting value for the taxes we are paying? It feels as though only a few benefit, and majority, as much as you contribute to the tax, one way or another, either through excise duty or VAT or pay as you earn or any other tax that's levied, but we don't get value for it. And then the saddest thing is, you know, this government came with, you know, crazy, huge promises of change. And now with the cost of living, you know, being so high, you know, you want to increase taxes of basic items. You know, when you tax fuel or increase taxes in fuel, that has a ripple effect on everything, on transport, on cost of goods, on food, basically everything, electricity. So I don't know how we're going to survive, because I know incomes haven't gone up. So I'm not sure how things are going to be. And also just seeing how even government itself is facing delays in paying civil servants. And not just government, like so many industries are affected. So I don't know, I don't know how Kenya Kwanza wants us to live. I don't know how, it feels like they really want to squeeze and milk us dry. And then I don't know how now we will survive. It seems like the only people who are going to be left, you know, managing to stay afloat are maybe people in government. But right now, I saw in the supermarket yesterday, I think the average cost of unga is around 200 averagely. So it's like, and now they've not even effected the 16% VAT on fuel. When that comes into effect, everything will increase. I don't know what employers will have to say about salaries, because how will people be able to maintain or take care of themselves if incomes remain the same, but everything, the cost goes up, like school fees, fuel, food, transport, everything, basically, the basic things that people use. So as much as, yes, it is our responsibility to pay taxes, I think what we want to see is transparency in how maybe tax is collected and used and utilized, and of course, equitable distribution, because you don't want to be contributing to tax, but you're not seeing how it's helping. I saw the president compared Kenya to South Africa and like Morocco, you know, saying they are more taxed than us. But you can't compare those economies. You cannot compare the service delivery, the level of service delivery that the citizens are getting with us. So I think what we want to see is, if you're going to tax us, we need to sort out corruption, first of all. We don't want to be paying tax and money is going into just a few people. And even this notion of government is a company. If it is a company, then let the people who are shareholders pay tax, and let the ones who are not pay. But if it's for all of us, then it needs to, everybody needs to feel like there's something in it for me. Okay. Yeah. I don't want to preempt the shareholding conversation. Yeah, I'm just, but it's okay. Because of a tax, yeah, like from a tax perspective. I get where you're coming from. Yeah. I get where you're coming from. Sylvia, the last time we were together, you were joining us. You're the one who was joining us virtually. Yes, I was. From the United Kingdom. And I remember I was asking you what you made of Harry's memoirs. His book had just come out. We were here together with you as well, Vivian, weren't we? We were the studio, so, you know, she's saying you can't compare Kenya's economy. Vivian says you can't compare Kenya's economy to some of these other countries that the president was comparing the GDP to debt ratio with. But oil marketers are thrilled, given the delays that have been experienced as far as them getting their refunds on the subsidies that were extended by government. But there was a Kenyan who, he was the way he phrased his view was humorous. He said, William Ruto is a doctor, Dr. William Ruto, so, but not a medical doctor. So he should understand, that you can't stay hungry. But generally, your thoughts, your views.
Personally, I think for the first time, and not just for this government, I think President Mwai Kibaki was one of the presidents that also tried to build Kenya on a solid rock. What we've been going through seemed very good. It seemed very okay for the government to be going forward. Of course, we had a lot of infrastructural programs in the past 10 years, but quite frankly, the country has been sinking slowly. We do not have a base of where, as a country, we are strong enough to even say that we can, be able to compete on an international level. Firstly, because we do not harvest our money from the rightful places. We have been living off of borrowing, and that is really, really dangerous. As it were, we were at the brink of bankruptcy, and that's the reality, and that's the truth. So what happens if your own homestead is at the brink of bankruptcy? You go back to the reset and rejig your planning and how you earn money. There's only 3 ways we can earn money as a nation: through manufacturing, through tax collection, and through agriculture. The president or the Kenya Kwanza government is working on agriculture at its hardest. We have to revive our agriculture. When I was a young girl, when I was growing up, agriculture was vibrant. There was no bursaries at the time, but our parents afforded to pay school fees because they knew how to make do with their salaries and also side hustles off the farming. It was enough. Tax collection. There's a lot of evasive tax collectors, tax payers. People don't want to pay taxes. But now that, the heat is coming, everybody has to pay taxes. We're hearing people complaining about it. Manufacturing. The Cabinet Secretary, Moses Kuria, is working up and down every single day to make sure that we reinvent our wheel, bring all our Rivertex back, all the companies that were manufacturing in Kenya years ago that made our spinning wheel move.
If I may,
to revive them.
Is it then not counterintuitive, if you'd like to revive the manufacturing sector,
to
then increase the tax on fuel?
Yes, so the fuel is a whole different dimension. The problem with the fuel is not just even us alone. We have a problem of fuel because we do not have fuel of our own. We do not produce crude oil, and neither do we process any fuel in this country. So we depend on imports. Our fuel is all coming from abroad. So there's also the dollar aspect of it, which is affecting the amount of money we pay on the fuel. And that's why recently, the government of Kenya, through the president, signed an agreement with Saudi Arabia so that we can buy the fuel directly. But that's not going to be in effect until 9 months later. It's not right now. So when that falls into effect, then we will start to see ease at the fuel pump, because now we will be buying fuel directly in the Kenyan shilling as opposed to the dollar.
Is it not already in effect?
No, it's not. It was supposed to be 9 months later. We can review that here.
Oh, I'll confirm. Let me confirm.
Yes. So that in itself is something that is already work in progress. Then, when you look at the tax collection in itself, and the president explained himself clearly, when you have other people paying 18% and 16%, and others are paying 8%, it gives window for pilferage and corruption, because that's how people falsify the tax reports and say, no, me, I'm in the tax bracket of 8%, when they're actually supposed to be in the tax bracket of 16%. So let it all be uniform like all other nations. let the tax, the VAT be the same, right? And then the other tax that we're talking about is the levy on, sorry, I just missed that point.
Oh, housing.
On housing.
Yes.
The levy on housing is such an important tool for all of us. Even if I have a home here in Nairobi and I have a home in Ushago, and somebody tells me, just put 3% down, the employer will match it with 3%, and within 15 years, you will own a property within Nairobi. That could be a property for my child. I don't mind doing that because it's my money. They're just helping me to save. And the problem with Kenya specifically, we have a problem with saving. We are not a saving nation. We don't have a saving culture in us. We don't even pay insurance, life insurance, to make sure that our children and our grandchildren can be able to inherit something better when they grow up or when they finish school. So we are always living off of hand to mouth, hand to mouth. When you pass away, you go and the rest live to struggle.
But like you said, it's a culture. Is it really something you can force on someone? But we get into that. Let's take a break because we need to take a break. We take a break. We come back on the other side with Celestine's thoughts on the matter, as well as Achieng, who's joining us, as I mentioned, virtually. So we'll get their thoughts on this and move on to the topic of discussion this morning, which is, and which we've already touched on a little bit, shareholding in government. Truthful or backward? The same question that Vivian has asked was asked by Ayub Abdikadir of Citizen TV on Sunday, and he said, you know, we all pay taxes, but when you tell us that they are shareholders, what does that translate to? On the other side of this break.
Daring Abroad makes me dare. It's the only show of its kind in the world. And now, it's bigger.
And even more entertaining and informative than before.
Hapa kunaitwa Kakoe na inatubaba sana.
From London to Jersey Island.
Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo to the scenic features of Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
And many more places abroad and at home.
I watch Daring Abroad. I like the stories which people bring.
Daring Abroad every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. with repeats every Sunday at 1:30 p.m. on NTV.
Mimi nilikuwa tu pale reserve. Nime-maintain, kuna fresh air, nini, na bros between peace. Alafu, imagine shemeji yangu, akakuja ametoka Nairobi, ati yeye ndio ameomoka. Akaniambia, ati Nairobi iko vitu soft, vitu mzuri. For example, tukifika Nairobi, atanipeleka place inaitwa Village Market, tukakulia huko. Si tukapanga safari, sisi ndio, tumewasili wapi? Nairobi. Guess what? Huyu mtu badala ya kunipeleka Village Market, akanirutisha Village, akanipeleka Market.
To get Market Village, dial *812*799#. Skiza, Na Nation.
Mrs. Diana, Mr. Diego is about to move out of the house.
What?
He's almost out the door with his luggage. He just told his grandfather.
Mother, I'm begging you to do what I'm asking you to, please. This is the only way. I'm begging you, Mother. Come on, please. I'm begging you. If Diego leaves, everything will be lost.
After all the profound arguments that we've made, I just can't continue living under the same roof as you.
Now what kind of nonsense is this? We could always speak and agree on something.
No, Grandpa! Everything has been said. If I stay, the only thing I'm doing is to continue putting up with your whims and that of Diana's. I'm sorry, but I cannot continue living like this.
Head over heels.
So when the coral is ready to be taken into the ocean, it is actually reef rangers who plant the coral, maintain it, and then do the outplanting as well.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to AM Live. My panelists are passionately discussing the question of the cost of unga, cost of living. And let me just reintroduce them if you've just joined us. Joining us virtually, we have Achieng Osogo. She's joining us from Homa Bay. She's a governance and political analyst. Is it Homa Bay or Nakuru? Should be Homa Bay. Vivian Tag, governance and political analyst. Good morning. Celestine Jagi, advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Certified mediator, Sylvia Mulama, women and youth advocacy. But what were Westlands? Westlands, remember she ran for Westlands MP in the last election. You're well represented. What were Langata, PM co-represented.
Greetings this morning.
Greetings. She sought the ODM ticket you stood against Jalas for the ODM ticket in Langata. And so, Celestine, your views on the rise in the cost of fuel mafuta, not even, and just it's set to rise further, looking at the figures that the Business Daily has published, and also your thoughts on the housing levy. Tax or savings, in your opinion?
First of all, I will reiterate the words of Winston Churchill. A country that is trying to tax itself into prosperity is like a man in a bucket trying to pull himself up, which is impossible. And even if we want to say that even if the government is focusing on
the president added an extension to that one. He said, but you cannot, what was it he said, Vivian, remind me, but you cannot borrow yourself into bankruptcy.
Even if you cannot borrow yourself into bankruptcy, first you're trying to tax yourself into prosperity. Because you're taxing yourself, the people trying to put all these funds together, and there's a lot of clifferage. There's so much wastage of this money. So I do not understand what exactly you're trying to achieve. Because if there's a lot of wastage in government, and then you're still saying you can't pay your civil servants, you can't even pay the NHIF, the doctors are saying they will not accept NHIF, what? And then you're still trying to increase that to Tier 1, Tier 2. What exactly are we trying to do for this country? Is the taxes, so far, if taxing ourselves into prosperity has been working, then it should have worked at least 10 years ago. It has not. It will not work as long as the measures that we keep talking about corruption are still going to proceed. Because number one, even when we check now the mafuta, number one thing, when you touch fuel, you've touched production. And not just, and you've also touched the day-to-day lives of every Kenyan. So many houses are still relying on kerosene. So you're making that household decide, is it kerosene I'm going to buy so that my children can be able to study at night, maybe using that, the small, I forget the name of that lamp. Or is it that I'm going to concentrate on actually, maybe if I have a boda boda, to get some fuel for my boda boda to ride so that I'm able to bring in some money so that I can fend for my family. So and then this is also going a ripple effect to the companies that are actually involved, and some of them are using some of this fuel or most of it fuel so that they are removed in the production. Is it going to work? So when you touch on the production and then you want to tell me that somehow you're going to lower the price of unga when the production cost is already very high, it's virtually impossible for these people to actually balance. So it's going to be very difficult for Kenyans, for the government to imagine that once they increase taxes and the cost of living is still very high, they're somehow balancing it out, as the president said. I don't see the balance, because once you increase the production, of course the prices increase, and then you increase the taxes. What is happening to the common mwananchi? Are they able to fend for themselves? That is a question we have to address. Is that even possible?
You know, he assumes we all cook with LPG. But the paraffin lamp, I think, is called Kiroboto, or is that the name? Yes. Let us know. Tweet me. It is, huh? Yeah. But maybe it's a health concern because it's not clean energy.
Even if it's not clean energy, what other alternative do they have? Because then you've also increased the taxes for electricity. So where are the people catching a break? There's nowhere. We're not having anywhere. We're saying, okay, fine, we cannot rely on this, maybe because this is not clean energy. We are trying electricity. We cannot even afford that. Even in the production of electricity, they will still need this fuel. So the cost of production is going extremely high. So when you make the cost of production go high, then there is no way to cut the balance because a salary is being increased. No, they're not changing. It's still the same. In fact, the only people who are benefiting is, for example, the CASs, the salaries are increasing. It's at the top. So the person who is at the bottom, where this government came in with the hustler narrative. So what were we expecting? Maybe better pay. Yeah, even at the, but there is no better pay for the common mwananchi, or even people at the government, the civil servants. Some of them will not get paid. Some of them will not get paid in time. So what is happening? And then you introduce housing levy. For me, that one is something that cannot and should not be allowed to see the light of the day. Okay. Because at the end of the day, even when someone, let's say, who is earning, let's say, even 50,000, give them the 3%. How long will it take for me to save, even if it's 3 and then the employer matches 3? How long will it take for me to save to get a house worth how much? Maybe 400, 500,000. Where in Kenya are you going to get that?
I think the idea is to pool the funds and then leverage these funds to get more funds, and then now you can pay a mortgage. Is the explanation?
Maybe that. But now, why do you want me to be subjected to be paying housing levy? For example, I already own a house. I have no intention to own a house, maybe, or I believe maybe in rent to own, or I don't want. There's some people who believe I want to stay in a penthouse. I don't want to own a house. Why must you force me? Yes, you have good intention, but why must you force it down on me for me to be able to own that house? Right. Is it a must? It should something should be left to be optional, because at the end of the day, this money benefits the government. Let some things be left optional. If as an employee I feel I'd like to pay for the housing allowance, then that should be optional. But no, the housing levy should not be forced down on each and every employee of this country.
All right. It sounds to me like you're resonating with this Taifa Leo headline. It reads this one. Serikali yazidi kufinya raia. And what I'm hearing from you is like it's like pouring more water into an already leaking bucket. But let's see if Acheng is of a different mind. She's joining us virtually. Good morning. Are you joining us from Homa Bay or Nakuru? I wasn't very clear.
Morning, I'm joining from Homa Bay with a terrible flu.
Oh, I'm really sorry about that. And we are wishing you a quick recovery. Nonetheless, thank you for rising this early to share your thoughts on the subject this morning, which is shareholding in government. Truthful or backward? But before then, your thoughts on the rising, because it's still progressively increasing, the cost of fuel as well as the housing levy debate. Where do you fall on this issue?
I've just been trying to remember if it was last week at the funeral that the president said that you do not tax consumption, you tax production. So I am struggling to deal with how it is he doesn't know that fuel is at the core of production. Because you will subsidize fertilizers, you will subsidize all those nice things you want to subsidize, but then how the farmer uses a tractor to dig. How do you run a tractor? With fuel, whose prices he has increased. Eventually the farmer will need to harvest. Again, they use equipment which are driven by fuel. The farmer will need to transport their produce, again using vehicles which use fuel. As they go about their stuff, they use power which is not subsidized, whose costs are now up. So how is it exactly that imagines that at some point there's going to be a miracle, I don't know what magic will happen, that then cost of production will go down. Because it has to be consistent. If you want to subsidize production, then understand everything that goes into production. What are the factors of production? And subsidize those. But you cannot increase the first cost of oil. Everybody knows that if you want to increase the cost of the end product, you increase the cost of oil. We started, I think the rain started beating us when VAT was added to fuel. That's when everything just began to skyrocket. And then when we increased the cost of kerosene, for example, yes, I know it's not clean energy, I agree. But what will now happen? Again, we are talking about climate change. We went and prayed for trees. We said that our trees do not grow because we don't pray for them. Now, you have increased the cost of production, or the cost of kerosene. So what is going to happen? We will go back to cutting trees because those are the ones we have available. Those are the ones we do not necessarily have to spend money on to buy. We probably grown them, to sell at some point. But then you go back to cutting down trees, and you go, charcoal now is a bit expensive, so maybe not even charcoal. Maybe you actually just use direct firewood. So he's speaking from both sides of the mouth, and I do not know what his game plan really is, but it seems he is keen on empowering the wealthy because choppers, if I saw right, are not taxable. So now those of us who cannot afford choppers, can we deal with our issues? I don't know what the cost of jet fuel looks like. Importation of choppers is going to be, is not going to be taxed. But it would seem he is a president of the rich, and he seems to just have plans for the rich. But I wish that while at it, he would at least allow us to live a decent life and be able to at least meet our basic needs, at least be able to eat, at least be able to even produce our own food. These days, people don't dig with jembes, we use tractors. At least make a diesel bus to run our tractors, to subsidize the cost of that. Leave it where it was so that we are able, especially this season, so that costs go down, and hopefully the end product will be cheaper.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for that submission, Acheng. On the helicopters, I don't know about jet fuel either. His explanation was that Wilson was used as a base for repairs of aircraft, and because of the taxes on the parts, I'm trying to recall exactly what he said, the taxes on the parts, our skilled engineers, etc., in the country lost out to other countries, or are forced to travel to other countries because it was cheaper to have it done there or something like that. There's an explanation he provided. But Mpenzi Mtazamaji has come through. I'd like to transition us now into the topic of conversation, but Mpenzi Mtazamaji has come through through Mabel Acheng, my producer, this morning. She tells me Nikoroboi. I pulled up an image here, and want to get just one clarification. Jackson Derango is my producer. He's on the other side of this earpiece, this one here. Forgive me, but I just want to get clarification on the issue of the government to government, so that we don't leave Mpenzi Mtazamaji pending on that particular issue. Let me just seek it from one, Julian's Amboko. He is essentially, if there was an encyclopedia on business and tech, it would be him. Let me just, let's see if first he'll take my call. Maybe he may be in transit trying to save some fuel himself. Hi, Julian's.
Olive, morning.
Morning. Is the government-to-government purchase of petroleum products already in effect?
Yes, it is.
It's already in effect?
Yes, we've already received consignments, actually.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Julian.
Cool.
See you in a bit.
Bye.
Okay, so there we have it. It's already in effect. We have gotten clarification from the Mwakenya. Okay. Topic of conversation this morning is shareholding in government, truthful or backward. So what has triggered this most recent conversation? Jackson, now that we are in good terms, in good books. There is a clip that I read it yesterday, and it's of the Deputy President when he spoke at the funeral service, which has just been referenced by Achieng, and he talked about the Kikuyu community, because he was speaking more broadly about Mau Mau and what is rightfully due them. And thereafter, the same question was posed to the president as to whether he supports his deputy's remarks, and he had an answer. Let's see if we can listen directly from them. Do we have that? All right, they're looking for it. They will find it. But truthful or backward, Vivian?
Very, what do I say? The way it feels and the current perception, just how things are, regardless of what the DP said and the president said, right now it feels like it's a country for the benefit of the few elite, or the few who have connections with people in high places in government. If you are not well placed, or you are not so quote unquote shareholder. By shareholder we mean, like, you know, the people who are elite in government or very high placed in government, then it's very difficult to, you know, get opportunities, both for work and even you know, contracts and that kind of thing. Majority of Kenyans, that's the feeling. And I don't know if you've seen this meme where it even says, if you want a government job or contract, please start with Yamune. Because if you are not going to speak that language of the president, chances that you will get anywhere are, you know, very slim. It's a joke and a meme that's been going around, like, you know, social media, but it tells you of the perception that the general public has towards the government. So the presidency and the national executive have a responsibility constitutionally to the citizens of Kenya to uphold the values and principles of public service that require that there's a semblance of regional balance, a semblance of equitable distribution of opportunities and resources. But right now, that doesn't seem to be the case. The perception we have right now is that it is for the benefit of the few, or a lot of these positions are reward positions. And I had the president in his interview with the media say that, you know, it is expected, every government leader who comes, you know, into government, it is expected of them to reward, you know, across the world, not just Kenya only. Yes, it is expected, but you are the president. You are a symbol of national unity in this country. And the same way he talked about using his conscience to make appointments is the same way he should make appointments that create, you know, the perception that there is regional balance, that there's national unity, that there's equitable distribution of, you know, resources and positions. He focused so much on jobs and opportunities that are low cadre, construction related, you know, the jobs that are going to come from the housing projects, which are, you know, low cadre jobs. But what about the high level? And then when you're a leader, lead by example. If you are appointing people from your community, what do you expect your juniors or the people below you to do? It will be like that effect will be, it will be a ripple effect. So if you're going to appoint in a cabinet of 25, you're going to appoint 12 people, you know, from your support region. Do you expect the people working below you to do any different? I don't think so. So I think for me, I'm disappointed. I would have expected him to try and heal the divisive cracks in Kenya by trying to appear more, you know, merit-based, by trying to do more merit-based appointments. As much as, yes, there's an aspect of reward of loyalty, but then it cannot be that, you know, 7 out of 10 opportunities that come are for your people. How then are we even going to get out of this economic quagmire?
All right, so you're saying it sets the wrong tone.
It does.
Okay. Let's see what the Anglican Church of Kenya had to say on this subject and whether it's a concern for you, Sylvia. There is glaring tribalism and cronyism, particularly with regard to public appointments. There is apparent lack of accountability and transparency in our institutions. This is not acceptable. Let all institutions and government agencies be impartial and efficient and not simply beholden to political influence, but serve all Kenyans with impartiality. Your thoughts?
Excuse me. Yeah, you know, this is a delicate subject. And I say delicate in the sense that much as we are advocating that the appointments are regionally balanced or tribally balanced, remember we have 44 tribes in Kenya. And if you were to perhaps handpick, it will not even be enough for the cabinet positions. So that means then you go regional. But having said that, first of all, we have to remember that there's appointments that are made by the president. And then when he appointed his cabinet secretaries, the appointments that are made by the cabinet secretaries. When the president made the appointments for the CSs, we saw the regional balance in that. Might not have covered all the tribes in Kenya, but there's a regional balance to it. The PSs, same thing, there's a regional balance. Then we come to now the board members and the CEOs. Some of them are being appointed directly by the cabinet secretaries. So we cannot actually fault him entirely on the appointments of the entire nation. And yes, I know we are going through a very difficult time as a nation. We are now in the glare of the media and social media as well. And this gives people time to be able to analyze every little point that is taking place. One person has been appointed, the name is this and that. One person has been appointed, the name is this and that. But we have to remember that there is also the parliament. Like the case of cabinet secretaries, PSs, they were appointed. Case in point is Dr. Kamau Thige. He's been appointed. Congratulations to him. And his CV is very credible, so we pray that he's going to do a great job once approved by Parliament. So he is be appointed to the CBK governor. But it's
nominated.
Sorry?
Nominated.
Nominated, sorry. But it's not confirmed yet until he goes through the Parliament vetting. Once the vetting is passed, then now he will be appointed to run Central Bank of Kenya. We also need to ask the Parliament to do due diligence when they are vetting. Is it regionally balanced? Is it tribally balanced? So we cannot hold one person accountable to appointments. And this is a problem in the entire country. There's even corporate organizations that when you go, you'll find a specific tribe that works in that corporate organization just because the human resource manager was from a specific tribe. But when you go to organizations like Safaricom, they've done a very good job in ensuring regional balance, tribal balance, gender balance, and including of even the minority in the country. So it is a question that all of us as Kenyans need to take up. It's not one person to complain about that the president has appointed so many people from his region. All of us, or most of us, are actually guilty of being subliminally prejudiced. That's what I can say.
All right. So we have, we'll hear directly from the principals, as it were, on the subject. Let's listen in, and then we'll have Celestin weigh in as well as Achie.
Nimeona magazeti watu wakipiga kelele ati umeweka Wakikuyu wengi kwa serikali yako. Walikuwa wanataka twende wapi? Sasa mimi nauliza, tukiwa wengi kwa serikali ya Ruto iko makosa? Wale wanasema tuko wengi kwa serikali ya Ruto, Sisi pia ndio tuko wengi Kamete prison. Kwa nini waseme tufunguliwe tuende nyumbani? Your Excellency, we are in your government by choice and by arrangement. We made a conscious decision to vote for you because you have what it takes to run this country. And it cannot be ati ya kwamba Wakikuyu hapa wachache wakiwekwa kwa serikali mnasema ni ukabila. Sisi tumefungwa, tumejaa pale Kamiti. Hakuna mtu analalamika ati Wakikuyu ni wengi wafunguliwe waende nyumbani. Your Excellency, wale umeweka kwa serikali yetu tunashukuru. Endelea kuweka wengine. Kama mtikuwa na toike serikali ni. Na sisi kura yetu ni mingi pia. Si tulipigia huyu Rais William Ruto? Yes. Nyinyi kama hakupigia yeye, it's up to you. Sisi msituhusishe kwa mambo yenu. Sisi ni wachapakazi. He has analyzed and found that in this region there are men and women who can assist him to govern. And we are in that government by choice. And the president has done nothing wrong in asking us to come and help him to run government. Kwa hivyo watu wawachane na sisi. Sisi tulipiga kura, tukaamuka mapema, tukijua nini tunafanya.
And allow me to take you back to the event in Nyandarua County yesterday. You were we were talking about taxes. Okay, of course we did. Yes. And not about taxes. In relation to that. Okay. Because it's still about running of a government. Yes. Your deputy is on record in equating Kenya to a shareholding company. Yesterday he talked about state appointments, and he talked about it while you were there. I don't want to quote him verbatim. In regards to state appointments that you make as the commander-in-chief and the symbol of national unity, is it a right for others and a privilege for the rest, yet your government expects all Kenyans to pay taxes?
It is a right for every Kenyan.
What do you say about the sentiment by your deputy?
My deputy is a very eloquent person.
It doesn't matter the eloquence.
I suggest...
Is Kenya a shareholding company?
I suggest you go and ask him those questions.
Okay.
He's a very capable Kenyan.
All right. It's straightforward question.
And I am sure he will not shy away. Okay. He knows how to handle those questions.
And
I can give you my commitment.
Mr. President, let me just pause you. You will proceed. I'll give you the time. You will answer me.
Okay.
Allow me to ask you the
question. Okay, Abdi.
The presidency is a symbol of national unity.
Correct.
You all represent us, isn't it?
Absolutely.
What's your view? Is Kenya a shareholding company, or as the constitution establishes, a secular state where we are all equal before the law?
All Kenyans are equal before the law. When it comes to political appointments, right? Everywhere in the world, you know, there are certain considerations you make. There are people who support you, and they have legitimate expectation. That's why they support you. So, when you're making those appointments, you have to consider national balance. You have also to consider your support base. It happens everywhere. Let me tell you, some people take it to the extreme. You can never accuse me or this administration that I have taken my daughter or my son or my relative and made them an MP or made them a minister or made them something. I will not do that. Yeah, I will not do that. Our competitors do that. They go take their children, they take them here, they take them there, they take them. That I will not do. Because I understand where I am coming from, right? Let me also tell you the following. Sometimes, because of our, obsession, allow me to use that word, it's a bit negative, because we are too much interested in this tribe, this guy is this tribe, this guy is this tribe, this guy is this tribe. We get too absorbed in tribe identity, identity politics. I'm also conscious that since independence, there is nobody from Nyanza who has ever been CDF. And it also played in my mind that I don't want a situation where a whole community think they cannot occupy a certain office. If you look at my PSS, I think I got PSS from 41 counties. If you look at the CSS, I got CSS, I think, from 45 counties. Every county has a CS in my administration, even the ones who voted for my opponent. I put them. If it was the philosophy of my deputy, they wouldn't be shareholders, and therefore they wouldn't qualify. But you know, there is an extent to which you must nationalize, you know. Many people thought, for example, the Hustler Fund. Many people thought, oh, you know, this is just going to be for the people who voted for Kenya Kwanza.
I'm curious how that was going to work, the Hustler Fund being just for the people who voted. How would you know? Or who voted for Kenya Kwanza or not?
No, that's digital.
But I mean, would you profile people? Because it would be profiling, wouldn't it be? Ethnic profiling of people to determine, you know, because you can't say all Kikuyus voted for Kenya Kwanza, and you can't say all Luos voted for Raila Odinga. But those are my thoughts. And before we get into what were magazeti that were referenced by Rigathi Gachagua, the DP, have said on this subject, let's get your response to what we've just listened to, Celestine.
First of all, the most important thing that the government must always bear in mind, and especially our president, is the concept of we the people, is the concept of Article 1 of the Constitution of Kenya. Sovereignty belongs to the power belongs to the people. You're there representing us. You've been constituted. Yes, the few who constitute the government are there for every Kenyan. It's not for some Kenyans. It's not for those who voted for you. The minute you're sitting on that seat where we refer to you as the president of this country is because we expect to act on behalf of the country. You're a symbol of national unity. You cannot be seen to take sides. Your deputy cannot be seen to take sides, because when your deputy takes sides, then we know you are taking the sides. And that is not how a government should run. And at the end of the day, when the government was saying it is a shareholding company, by declaring it a shareholding, when you say shareholding, these are people with some stock in the government. And they have voting rights. Like we have, each and every Kenyan has one vote to decide who's at the top. But then when you put it as a shareholding, that means we have common shareholders and preferred shareholders. A common shareholder, then that shareholder has more rights. They have more stock. They have the decisions they make are legally binding, even in a company. So when the government is acting as a company, those that have now the common stock, the common shareholders, those ones will always have more. The rest, as the deputy said some time back, will come and see whatever remained. We reap maybe whatever remained after those at the top have already reaped and gotten the big packs. And when the president is seen to be making appointments based on one tribe or just two tribes or just those who voted for him, what does that, as we had said, one of the panelists said earlier, it sets a very wrong tone. Because even the people, even the CASs, then will feel the need to please if I've been appointed by the president, and the president is making appointments based on certain tribes, and I am acting on behalf of the president, I sit on that seat at the pleasure of the president, I might be motivated to do the same. Just vote for people that I like, for people who are going to, maybe the people, from people from my tribe. So what that does is then we lose it as a nation. And then the hustler narrative that was highly politicized when you are campaigning, we don't see it. We actually now think, okay, so who exactly is the hustler? Is the person at the top, do you mean that only people, the Kikuyu and Kalenjins are hustlers, so that is why they are well represented at the top? And even those at the top, does that translate to what the person there at the bottom, who campaigned for you, who voted for you, who trusted in you, who carried your dream and put you there, what are you exactly doing? Then I believe that saying that we are a shareholding company is wrong. Because then, you see, the concept of companies and shareholding is that because some people will get, the directors must act in a way that pleases the shareholders. And some shareholders have more rights and are equal than others. Then it negates what he said, that we are all equal. Then how can we all be equal when some shareholders have more rights than others? We expect those at the top must act as if they're representing the nation. Then that is wrong. And for me, that's a color statement to make. That is not a way to lead the nation. That will lead so many people feeling very ungrateful. The mandamano will never stop, because today we are going to be saying, okay, fine, it's only the president only recognizes these 2 tribes. So you might even have a point you're pitting other people against other people for nothing reason, just for appointments, and those appointments are not many. That let's say even if we put 50 appointments from 2 regions don't represent the whole 44 tribes in Kenya. Yes, even they do not even represent everyone, even in that community. You might end up pitting sides, tribes against tribes for nothing really. So him as a symbol of national unity, he should strive to actually make sure the appointments, even if those people are merited, because I believe the people who've been put in that position, even if they're coming from certain tribes, of course they have the qualifications, that is for sure. They might have the actual qualifications, but that does not mean other people in other tribes did not actually. We have to maintain the national balance. We have to actually see people with disabilities, are they represented? Okay. Are women actually represented? Are the marginalized actually represented? We are yet to see that.
Okay. All right, let's hear from Achieng on the subject. What do you make of how the president handled that question? He gave, by way of example, the recent appointment of Ogola as head of the military. Your thoughts?
Before I go to Ogola, I think I want to say there's something that the speaker that just has spoken about. Those in those positions have meet the qualifications. And I was just thinking, there's somebody that had to be recalled, I think head of public service, to come and help, so merited where. Anyway, you see, it is important to understand where we came from, why, first of all, 2 communities are the majority in government. It is also important to understand why people feel they want their own to be in top positions. And for me, the reason the 2 communities are majority in public service is because the 2 communities have been president. So it tells you that over the years, a presidency has been, my mind goes back to it's our time to eat. Presidency is an opportunity to eat. Presidency is an opportunity to take care of your own. And you sort of void out the rest of the country as you do this. And there's a reason why you must meet 25% in at least 24 counties in an election. And I think the president is not being honest in then wanting to quickly forget that requirement. And now at the point of appointment, you only look out for your own. I have I don't know how, maybe there was no way, the counties are it's not that one county has just 1 tribe, so maybe this would be difficult to achieve at the point of election, because you find that, and how they then, it's then easy for the president to say that he has PSS from, I think, 41 counties, because Kikuyus have several counties, Luos have several counties, Kalenjins have several counties. So either way, it is a Kikuyu, either way, it is a Kalenjin, but from different counties, yeah? So you'll find that the cosmopolitan counties are even assigned to somebody from those dominant tribes, they're either Kalenjin or Kikuyu. And sometimes I feel bad for the Kalenjin and Kikuyus, because what this does is that in the hearts of the non-Kalenjin and non-Kikuyu, you begin to feel something towards those 2. They are favored. And naturally, when somebody is favored, you have negative feelings towards them. You know, you always feel they're ahead of you. So you're always scheming against them. And I don't know why they do not see it this way. They're just obsessed with amassing wealth, and which is the reason everybody is keen on seeing their own. Because it's just about amassing wealth. It's just about the share you will get. And we know it from history. look wherever you are. And I don't know who it is in the panel who said that even in HR, when it is a Luo who is HR, 70% of the employees in that place will be Luos. You know, it is just that. That is why you want the person at the top to be your own, because you know that will be your ministry. So it is important that we understand and be honest with ourselves while we are having these conversations. And I think he's trying to be smart when he says, and play politics rather, when he says that he didn't give his children positions. And so what? Even giving children, those who give their children positions are also wrong. So you cannot use a wrong to make yourself look right. We are all Kenyans. We all voted. We all pay taxes. The reason we do not want a monarchy is because everybody of us want to imagine we have a shot at governance. That's why for us, in all ways of running a country, a government, we opted for democracy. You know, so that everybody believes you stand a chance. Everybody believes there's something to my one vote. It might just be one, but there's something to it. So if when you get, then it is just yours, then you start looking at yourselves and you start looking at the numbers and you're thinking, so hata tukianza kuzaa tutawai zaa lini and get to 18 and get the numbers, you know. So it is, I think, that sense of disenfranchisement that then the rest of the communities feel needs to be addressed. Be fair. I think it is very painful when the president then says that he's launched projects, so those will take care of us, so the rest of us can do Mjengo as the CS and the PS are his own, and regardless, the rest of us can do Mjengo. The rest of us can do the things we went to school to study for. If you study to be a quantity surveyor, you just go and do quantity surveying. These others who are lucky to be from my tribe, those ones I will give the plum jobs. You know, it is extremely unfair. And on Ogola, I think he played, again, politics. I think he was looking for a way to pour water on the Mandamano speak. He needed to have something to place on the table. He needed to have something new to say in church, in rallies. That, you know, while Raila Odinga is making noise that we are appointing only our own, I appointed Ogola. Is Ogola Kikuyu? Is Ogola Kalenjin? For me, I think it was purely for that. It wasn't anything that he's following the constitution and all. And then on the appointing different tribes, the cabinet positions being just, I think, 22. I think Ekuru Court explained it very well. The reason they settled on 22 was because at that time, the official tribes in the country were 44. So what they had in mind was that every tribe gets one CS position. Not every county, Atinao, Elgeyo Marakwet, Nakuru, Nandi, Uasin Gishu, all those at Iwanwan, and they're all Kalenjin. No, every tribe was meant to get one. And then PSA were meant to get the other. You just want to look and see your own. You want to feel inspired. That child who goes to school wants to believe that because my own is there, then I can also work and get there. I think for me, that's my take, Olive, on this one.
All right. So
on tribes in appointments.
Okay, so we take a break, but we'll come back and get Sylvia's response, Vivian's thoughts, Celestine as well. We'll see if the numbers back up the assertions that have been made. We'll take a look at that on the other side of this break.
Pata taarifa teke na e-paper. Stay in the know on the go, getting the full story bila ngori. To sign up, choose your preferred subscription. Use the promo code SUBZ22 to get 20% off and pay. Get your favorite newspaper and enjoy the truth anywhere, anytime. For inquiries, email epaper@ke.nationmedia.com or call 0790 Subscribe today and get your taarifa teke.
Mimi nakushauri nimedate joka the. Muda mwanzo hata leo sijui story venye inaenda. Nini mwanzo kutensive basi gari itakuja Kago yangu iko na makarao. Majamaa wawili wenye ulikuwa unafaa kuwa nao wako ndani. Alafu wewe uko hapa. Unajua nipoteza pesa ngapi wewe?
Mzee Jomos, mimi si snitch. Mimi si kusnitch at all. Wala tena.
Mimi sina doya lunch. Mtoi hajakula tangu jana.
Mimi si baba mtoto. Fanya job. Toa.
On my dark marks, I've tried everything from A to Z, even vitamin C, but hardly any results. Nivea Lumina 630 works from day one, with visible results in just 2 weeks and 71% dark marks reduction in 12. Join the 1 million women already using the #1 Lumina 630 from Nivea.
With Molfix pants, changing diapers is now very easy. I tear and take off the used Molfix pants and pull the new one up in a moment. Wrap up the used diaper and throw it away. Come on, mothers, try Molfix baby pants and be part of our happiness movement.
Alright, welcome back to AM Live. Wacha tuangalia watu wa magazeti wamesema nini on this subject. I'll throw you back to April 14th, Taifa Leo data they got from the Public Service Commission. This was the headline, Ukabila Serikalini. And let's flip over, see what these numbers, you can see the numbers. There's a table on the front page here, but they tell us to flip to ukurasa wa pili, and this is ukurasa wa pili, ukabila ulivyokolea katika serikali kuu, and they tell us ripoti ya tume ya utumishi wa umma yaonyesha ukosefu wa usawa na uwakilishi wa makabila katika utendakazi wa umma. And can I zoom in further? Yes, there we go. And it tells us jamii, which tribes, here we go. Ripoti ya tume ya utumishi wa umma kuhusu masuala mbalimbali ya mwaka 2021 na 2022. Aidha inaonyesha kuwa jamii 3 pekee, Kikuyu, Kalenjin na Kisii, zinashikilia karibu nusu ya nyadhifa za utumishi wa umma katika serikali kuu. And when we look more recently at from this month, from the Standard, this was the front page on, is it the 5th or something? Let me see. This was May 11th, actually. Not too long ago. Church slams Ruto on jobs as data shows ethnic imbalance. Most key appointments going to 3 ethnic groups, which is not commensurate with their population numbers. Let's take a look. So they tell us pages 6 and 7. Are we there yet? 2 more pages to flip through. Here we go. There we go. So, wait, which page is this? Flipped all the way to page 13. Let's see. This is page what? Let me zoom out so I can see the numbers clearer. This is page 12. So previous. There we go. Okay, so this is the story. Church warns against tribal tension and graft. But which page was it? I shared with you on WhatsApp, right? I go back? Previous? Here we go. Here is that data. State jobs skewed to favor majority tribes. There we go. And this is by Franklin Sunday. Appointments by President Ruto listed in the Kenya Gazette as of May this year show Kalenjin and Kikuyu communities tie at 21% of the appointees. Somalis, Luyas and Luo follow at 12%, 10% and 8% respectively. Vivian, you know, this in a roundabout way really comes back down to one man, one shilling, one vote.
So Somalis are number 3 with, let me not say, but it's a sad picture. It backs what Rigathi Gachagua said. Government has shareholders. Like when he said that, but now this data is like backup, is like proof that what he said is actually true. So if government is for Kalenjins or, you know, let's say generally Mount Kenya region and Rift Valley region, then it shows in the data. It shows, you know, if they share equally 21%, then what he said about this being a shareholding company is actually, this data sort of confirms what he said to be true. And the sad thing is, like even when we go back to cabinet, our cabinet right now is 25 people, including the president and the deputy president. Out of 25, 12 of these positions are held by people from Mount Kenya region and Rift Valley region, leaving only 13 positions shared among the rest of Kenyans. So even as the president says his cabinet are from, I don't know whether it was 41 or 45 counties, the truth is, like Achieng said, some of those counties, like in the Rift Valley region, you have Bomet, Nandi, they're all one represent. Okay, they're different counties, but they are representative of one ethnic community. So you might say, oh, I have people from 7 different counties, yet the 7 are all from Rift Valley, you know, Kericho, Bomet, Nandi, like that. So he needs to be more intentional about reflecting and showing the face of Kenya, because he took an oath of office. He said, I will defend this constitution. I will uphold it. What does Article 232 says? It talks about the values and principles of public service, where the face, you know, there needs to be regional balance. There needs to be equal opportunities to all Kenyans. How will Kenyans feel that this is equal when we're already making jokes about the way to get a job is to greet Yamune? You know, it should not be like that. That should not be the case. And this is a leadership issue. It starts from the top. Can the president lead by example? We understand, yes, he had people who supported his campaign and backed him up. But now this is about Kenya and about Kenyans. And it cannot be just, you know, closed down to the people who supported him. No, we all pay tax. We all have an equal right to this country. Nobody has more rights than the other. But we need to see it from a leadership perspective. Can he take charge and change this? He talked about we focus so much on ethnic politics. But we do that because of the perception that it is only through this ethnic support and ethnic politics that we will get an opportunity. Achieng mentioned that maybe also one of the reasons that the 2 top tribes that have received maybe government appointments are Kalenjin and Kikuyu. Maybe it's also because all the presidencies we've had since Kenya's independence has been either Kalenjin or Kikuyu. Perhaps that is part of the reason why it is also like that, which also just pushes that narrative of, oh, maybe then if we had a Kisi president, maybe then we would have more. Maybe if we had a Luya president, maybe then we would have more Luyas. And it just pushes people back to the ethnic, you know, politics. And we cannot focus on issues because we are all looking for opportunities. But how do people get opportunities in government? It starts by who do you know there or who knows you there. If you don't know anybody, oh my goodness, you are at a disadvantage. And I've seen this trend, especially with, it's more prevalent among Gen Z. A lot of them now don't like using their surnames. So someone will say, if you ask them, what's your name? Jane Mary, Rose, I don't know, Charlene, something. It's like they don't like to use their surnames because more and more it feels like maybe if I said the wrong surname, it will disqualify me from an opportunity. So I would rather use maybe my 2 English names so that you cannot place where I'm from and you do not close me off to an opportunity before before you see whether I am qualified or not. And it should not be like that. Our cultural diversity, our ethnicities are something we should embrace, are something that should be an advantage for Kenya, not a disadvantage. But when it gets to a place where you feel like my ethnic community or where I come from might, close me off from opportunities, then people start to, you don't want to say it openly, or you don't want to introduce yourself, with where you come from, because you don't know if the boss is maybe Kisii and you're not, and maybe they're looking for a Kisii and they know that you're not, then chances that you wouldn't get the job, are high, maybe. So this thing, President William Ruto needs to lead from the front. He needs to lead from the front, even as he's pushing for, saying we want more taxes. Personally, I want to see stopgaps in corruption, in issues of corruption. If they're serious about austerity measures, let it be across the board, not in some areas and not some areas. If we can stop some of these leakages, maybe, just maybe, he can get more goodwill from Kenyans to support these things. But trying to push us into taxes where we are not seeing where the money is going, and even the people benefiting from those taxes are not us, are people from Rift Valley and Mount Kenya who are shareholders of government, then let them pay taxes so that they can get all the government jobs and, sort themselves out. Don't make us then pay for them to ride in choppers that are not taxed.
Sylvia, are you a shareholder?
No, actually I'm not. I'm not a shareholder. I'm a shareholder of my household.
but this is what is it for me, right? So when the deputy, these are statements that the deputy president has made time and again, unapologetically, in the presence many times of the president, who has remained silent on the issue until he was at least most recently pushed at this interview at State House, Nairobi. And even then he was very evasive. But then again, he came and said, realistically, I have a support base and there are expectations from that support base. So this is nothing new, and it happens everywhere. So that's one. Two, if you can manage the two questions. We are advised not to ask double-ended questions, one gets lost. But secondly, the deputy president, in his defense, says, the president is the symbol of national unity. He will work for all Kenyans. But me, I will, I will champion the cause of this particular group of people. What do you make of that argument, given all Kenyans pay his taxes and not just Kenyans from one particular community or from one particular party?
Yeah, okay. If I, in my own opinion, what the deputy president said, and he has said it a few times, that, oh, if you didn't vote for us, you shouldn't be looking for a job with us, or, we are working for ourselves and we're working for our community, and me, I'm working for you. I mean, I can't speak for him, but we've all had these statements out there in public domain. And in my opinion, I feel that it's not fair, because even as the Kenya Kwanza government in itself, it's not that one specific tribe is the one that led the coalition to a win. There was so many other tribes involved. And so we should embrace all the tribes as equal. So if I go to my region and I talk about my regional people and I say, you are the people that voted, so you deserve more than this, that disenfranchises the other regions. And I feel that is a little bit a kind of a reckless statement to make, because it disenfranchises other communities, even those within the Kenya Kwanza coalition. So there are those that will feel that, okay, we played a role, but is not equally important as what he purports. When it comes to what the president said that speak to the deputy president himself, I can understand from his point of view that the deputy president is an individual. He is a mature person. He is leading the second highest office in the country, in the land. And we remember what happened in the past 10 years, the fallout between the president and the deputy president. So I don't think the president wants to get into a situation where the doubting Thomases start building stories about the relationship between the president and the deputy president. He wants that to remain as smooth as it is so that they can work well for Kenyans and deliver the services that they promise to the Kenyans. The question on the table is, you know, the appointments, as it were. But, you know, Kenyans as well as individuals, we want to have our cake and eat it. When it comes to the elections, the frenzy of the political campaigns, everybody shells off and goes into the cocoon of their tribe. I have 500 Luyas, I have 500 Luos, or I have Kisis. Kisis will vote for me. No, Merus will vote for me. You know, we walk up with our wings high up, claiming off of our tribes, right? But now it comes to the other end of the coin, and you no longer want to be tribal. You want everything to be balanced. We can't have our, you know, our cake, bake it, and eat it. We have to choose. We either go into elections as neutral Kenyans and not tribal-based. We have to do away with tribal politics, first of all. That is what is bedeviling our leadership and in every organization in this land. That most organizations, wherever is there, they have an angle and an inkling to, or where are you from? Or they don't understand the name. I don't understand where your name is from. You know, should that be a factor in employment? Should that be a factor in appointment? Should that be a factor in business dealings? It shouldn't be. And you mentioned, Vivian mentioned the Generation Z. Actually, personally, I like the Generation Z. You know why? Because they don't care about the second name.
Actually thought the same thing, because I'm like, a lot of them are a product of intermarriage.
Yes.
So maybe they don't use
they
their
don't
last
see
names
all this,
because for them,
they don't think about
it's
a
not
no,
here
they
or
don't think
there.
about, yeah, it's, you know, when you see them in a group, you will never understand who comes from where. They are a group of young people happy to be together, enjoy each other, and love each other neutrally, devoid of their tribal affiliations.
Okay.
So it is a situation that we as Kenyans, as we talk, as we criticize the government, as we criticize the president, you as an individual, are you tribal in yourself? And you will find the inner part of you is actually tribal.
All right.
But when you go to appointments, let's not say that all these appointments have gone to one tribe only. I know of so many Kenyans right now that are not Kalenjins or Kikuyus, that are actually in different boards, been appointed in different organizations, and are running places elsewhere in the country.
All right.
Yes.
You know, when you were saying the deputy president is an individual, as the president was saying, it reminded me of this tweet. Moses Kuria is, you know, so this is a response by the PS Foreign Affairs to a tweet, screenshot of a tweet allegedly that originated from the trade CS. It's you, Sylvia, was saying it's very hard at work. But so he apparently, reportedly, said the Sudan lesson is simple. The community of nations should militarily invade any country where armies overthrow government. Appeasement does not pay off. Military juntas do not become democrats simply because of the false principle of non-interference. The AU can marshal a strong enough army to bomb Khartoum to smithereens. And the PS was very clear that the personal views, so it seems like this is a government of personal views. The personal views expressed by Honorable Moses Kuria do not represent government policy on this complex and challenging issue. We continue to work with all parties towards peaceful resolution of the Sudan crisis. But this is an aside, because it appears government where people express personal views, not policy. But Celestine, what does the law provide on representation?
The representation. First of all, we have the most interesting thing that people keep talking about is the gender rule, the 2/3 rule generally. When you say gender, I want to make it clear that we do not talk about women. When you say gender, it is both male, it is both female. So when you say, for example, even in this room, we would say we are gender imbalanced. considering you have 1 man there and then the rest of us.
Behind the camera?
Yes, behind the camera there is 1 man. But at the end of the day, gender role, there is also something that comes to play in part. There is also a quota system in government where we have to make sure certain marginalized people are also met, that the representation is actually met. And gender role, when you say 2/3, is that we expect, whether it is male, whether it is female, the 2/3 gender role in that particular place where decisions are meant to be made, that one is met. On representation, we expect that we see a national face when it comes to matters national government. The reason it is national government, it is because it's catering for everyone, for every person. And then we cannot have some people represented more than others. That means the interests that are going to be communicated will be for probably one tribe or one only certain interest that will be represented and not the rest. Then what that means is that we will be failing as a nation, because then some people will never be heard. We'll only see and hear about them, but what they have to say, what they have to bring to the table, if there's something, we will never know what is good for them, because we'll be making rules or decisions on their behalf based on what we want. Okay. So representation must be seen. It's not something that has to be behind the cameras. It's not something that has to be, you may attend. So when you hear people complaining that the topmost or the plum jobs are being given to certain tribes, it does not mean that when you come to the board level, the board appointments, the CEO's appointments, the state corporations and people who work there do not include all other, the inclusivity is actually maybe being done there. But you see, at the top, we want to see representation of the nation. So you can't now then just come out, even if we have 10 Kalenjins here, we have over 100 people from 41 tribes represented below them. Yes, we also want to see in those 10, let us also see 5 from different people, 7 from different tribes. You can have, of course, we understand, and it is for sure that there is always going to be those people who supported you, those people who are loyal to you. You're going to, of course, maybe just say, thank you for supporting me, for believing in my dream, and putting them in certain positions. That is always going to happen. Okay. It's systemic. That's how it always has been. But then we also need to see you. Now, the position that our president is occupying is not personal. It is not a tribal position. It is a national position. And that one has to be reflected across the board.
All right. So I hate to cut you short, but I just want to give Acheng a minute as well to make her last remark. Acheng, I have just about a minute. If you could make a concise statement on, is the DP just being a truthful man? They have invested, and the saying, you reap where you sow.
Seeing it as it is, and I like Machogu, because in the political space there's this thing about you're given a position, the rest of it tumia akili yako ya kuzaliwa. So Machogu alitumia akili, he became CS education and Kisi topped in exams. So I was just thinking about the other factors why people want to see their own in a place, in a position of influence. So Gachagua is just saying it as it is. We do not like to hear it. The burden for me is on the president, because Gachagua has said it as it is. So the president needs to lead. The president needs to stop playing politics and just take charge of this country, because when he went out to seek for a position of presidency, he had Kenya in mind. He didn't have the Kalenjin and Kikuyu nation in mind, which is why he reached out to the Luhya community, for example. So he must lead the country. Like Celestine has said, he is national leader. This is national government. This is not tribal. He's using all the things he is doing. So he take charge. He must carry all of us with him. At least if he wants to continue taxing us painfully the way he seems to want to, if he wants to continue building the nation, the other reality for him is that he must go through other places, other communities, to get to his home, fortunately, the way the country is built, now country versus nation. So yes, he has a country, but he has a nation to build, a sense of nation, it's called nationhood, a sense of nationhood to build. We must all feel a part of it. We must not start looking for ways to avoid tax because it is painful. Because this is where he's going to lead us to. Per diem, for example, like, I was hoping we'd also talk about taxing per diem for civil servants. And I was just thinking to myself, what civil servants will do is just add a day. So the extra day is what is the tax. You know, people will work smart because it's painful and people don't want to, you don't want to bear it, and you're not seeing results.
Okay, all right.
There are so many, the burden is too much on us. So at least while you're taking from us, make it painless. Make it painless for the taxpayers. Make it painless for the citizens of this country. And let all of us feel a sense of belonging in this country. We're in it together. The national anthem has not changed.
All right. Thank you very much, Acheng. Like I said, I'm literally out of time. I'm on borrowed time now. Acheng Osogo, governance and political analyst. Vivian Ta, governance and political analyst. Celestine Jagi, advocate of the High Court of Kenya, NS certified mediator, and Sylvia Mulama. She advocates for women and youth. I've seen her on Radio Jambo's Twitter a time or two as well. Next time you'll explain what that's about. That's it. My name is Olive Burrows. As one advice Mundalo keeps telling me, if you're not on the table, you're on the menu.